I'm here with Chris. Is it Algieri or Algieri? How do you?
It's really Algieri, but go by Algieri.
Oh, okay.
It's much easier to say.
So you've been off for about a year now, right?
About that, yeah.
What have you been doing in that time?
A lot. I've been really busy, both outside the sport and inside the sport. Obviously, I'm here with the Jacobs camp. But I've been training, the whole time pretty much. I pretty much haven't really skipped a beat. I've been sparring. I just finished up sparring today. But I've been working as a performance nutrition coach with Stony Brook University. It's a Division I college on Long Island.
Oh, right on.
Been with them this whole year, these past 2 semesters. I took a sabbatical from that so I could come out here to work with Danny, getting ready for his fight with Triple G on March 18th. And it's been good. It's been kind of like a little training camp for me as well.
How did you two hook up?
So Danny and I have, we fought on the same card several times coming up in the New York area. The elite level guys from New York is kind of a small population. So, we cross paths quite a bit. And, so we always see each other, always talk and whatever, and, from being from the same area and whatnot. But, I guess I've just become known as a boxer who, number one, has the education as a nutritionist, works as a nutritionist, also likes to cook for my social media posts and whatnot. And his team reached out to my team and kind of like kicked out the idea, see if this was something that could work. And it was just the timing was perfect. I had kind of like a lull in my activity in the sport of boxing and had some time off. So I was like, hey, let's do it. Let's make it work.
What are the major changes that you've made to his diet? What have you brought to this table, literally?
So I would say the number one change that I've brought to the table for this camp for Triple G for Danny is the quality of the food and the freshness. So I'm a food first kind of guy. I want to keep him really well fed, really hydrated. We've been slowly making the weight and bringing our weight down, getting leaner, but at the same time keeping his energy levels up, keeping him so camp is enjoyable, so he can go out there and perform at his best. I think Danny works best when he feels confident and good and kind of can have fun with his boxing. He's just that kind of guy. He's an athletic guy. He can kind of flow from his movement, and when you're underfed and underfueled, it's really difficult to kind of keep that flow going. So I think for me, my job here has been to keep him well fueled so he can go out there and be himself, because that's what he needs for this fight.
Are there specifics? I mean, you talk about, so I eat only organic food myself, and I've been doing that for about 4 years now. Mm-hmm. I've noticed a huge difference.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it lack of nutrients that are in GMO foods?
So food quality is really, really important. It's something that's becoming more and more of an issue, and I think is going to become even more well known to the public. The kinds of food, especially our meat products. Time and time again, more and more studies and more people are kind of adopting the plant-based lifestyle. And I don't mean just vegan or vegetarian. I mean that your diet is predominantly from plants, fruits, and vegetables, not from meat sources. Mm-hmm. And so my whole idea when I work with myself and for my athletes is that our diet is going to be plant-based. It's going to be mostly vegetarian, but when we put in meats, it's going to be only the highest level and highest quality of meat products that we're going to use. So when we have our protein sources, we mix them up throughout the week, and generally I'd like to have some kind of meat or fish almost every day. But we're getting the highest quality. We're getting grass-fed beef. We're getting totally organic chicken, free range. We're getting eggs that are free range organic, omega-3 as well within the egg, and then our fish is all going to be wild caught.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between with the wild caught?
So when you're talking about fish, the difference between wild caught, depending on the species of fish, but depending on so when we're talking about wild caught versus farm raised, the quality of the meat and the fatty acid content is much different in the wild caught versus the farm raised. Farm raised, they're not fed what they're naturally eating, so their makeup, their basically the makeup of their tissues is going to be different from those that are in the wild and they're eating their natural habitat and diet.
Okay. In terms of water, is there a particular? I'm a big fan of alkaline water.
Yes.
Is that how you guys roll?
Yeah. So. I don't know if I can name drop a brand, but we're using Essentia water, which is very high. It's like a 9.5, and we're doing that, a liter and a half of that a day, and just to kind of make sure that we're offsetting all the high impact and training that Danny's doing, keeping his body at a more basic level.
Can you explain that to people, what alkaline water does for you?
So depending on what your diet's like, our body is in a very tight range. Homeostasis is what our body is doing at all times, and that's to keep all our metabolic processes work within a very narrow range. And for this, we're talking about pH range. Our bodies are slightly basic. A majority of the American diet is very acidic. So if you're eating a lot of foods that are normally found in American society, your body could enter a range that is maybe more acidic than it should be, maybe not necessarily entirely acidic, but when that happens, you're outside of that pH range that our body is used to, all of our metabolic processes don't work as well. Some of them break down completely. So everything in our body, we're basically hormonal machines, and we have all these metabolic processes going throughout our body, and they're all chains. So everything is kind of like going, this does this job, which goes to the next job and goes right down the line. If something's off, whether something could be the pH of the environment of where these chemical reactions are occurring, that can throw one little thing off, which can throw another thing off, and then comes the butterfly effect, and it changes everything down the line. So staying within that narrow range and making sure our body is able to work optimally is extremely, extremely important, and that's kind of where alkalinity versus acidity comes into play. When you're dealing with high-level athletics, inches are miles. So it's very, 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 very important to make sure that we're getting all the nutrients possible. Day-to-day people, if you're more sedentary, it's not as important. That you're not as at risk to be underfueled or malnourished or missing a certain nutrient because you're not burning through them like a guy like Danny is, who's training twice a day, 6 days a week, who's also trying to make a certain weight class. So there's a lot more factors here. He's putting his body under a tremendous amount of stress with the training that comes with any kind of boxing or really any kind of high-level sport. So making sure that his nutrition is at optimal levels so he can perform at optimal levels is super, super important, which is exactly why I'm here. So he doesn't have to worry about that. It's my job. He's been a fantastic client because he doesn't question anything. He doesn't even look in the fridge. He just I ask him what he wants to eat, whatever you say. And he's been like that since day one, and it's made my job easier and more difficult because I gotta get more creative to make sure that I'm giving him food that he's gonna enjoy, because I want him to enjoy this experience and enjoy the food that he's eating, again, so he can go out there and perform and have fun.
Now, do you handle the supplementation? I know Victor also handles all that stuff, or has his own line.
I do, and Victor has been a great help to the camp as well. So I'm a food first guy, like I said off the top. Yeah. But I also believe that at this level, it's very important to supplement, and that's what a supplement is. It supplements a whole food diet. So the majority of what we eat is basically our food, but there are certain aspects of this kind of training where there is a very definitive gap in good to great. So making sure we're giving our athlete every possible chance to be great means that supplementation does have a place within training. Yeah, it's very cool to have like a hyperbaric chamber here, so you can come. Like it's kind of a one-stop shop. You can do your conditioning here, you can do your boxing here, and you can come for your recovery as well. So I think that's cool. Makes it much easier for fighters. We have so many different things we have to do, and I'm not just talking. People think about training. It's all right. We got to work hard, but recovery is just as important at this level. So being in a facility that has multiple modalities for recovery is really cool too. You can train super hard. You can recover super hard.
What's next for you?
I'm hopefully getting back in the ring as soon as possible.
Feeling that itch again?
Yeah, honestly, the itch never really left me. That's not what has been keeping me out. It's more of the business of the sport more than anything. I've been ready to fight. I've been sparring twice a week and staying in great shape. I'm close to weight. So it's not that's been keeping me out. It's the business side. I got to get paid when I'm working.
Absolutely. And especially you've now reached a certain level. You go back to club shows, that's not going to happen.
At this point, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. I've never been a guy who fought for the money. But I think I've earned enough. I've earned myself the right to make the right kind of money at this point in my career. I didn't for a long time. I literally turned down no one ever. And I've taken a different route than most fighters, and I think I've earned that level of respect and right to earn what I'm worth.
Absolutely, and you're also fun to watch, which is when we
another thing that can be hard to come by.
We saw a fight last week that the two guys didn't dare to be great.
Yeah,
and you always bring it.
That and that I think hurts the sport on a whole, and hurts guys' careers too. They make this unspoken pact to not really overstep and just kind of be like, all right, we're gonna shuffle around and we're gonna take little moves here and there, but not really take a chance. And like you said, that dare to be great. You know, you got, you remember a guy like Sugar Ray Leonard? He dared to be great. He took chances. He got dropped. He would go into fights and throw and get tired and go back to the corner, be like, and say he could barely breathe. You know, and Angel Dundee had to yell at him, slap him, tell him to go out there and keep boxing and make something happen. You know, even a guy like even much closer, like Sergio Martinez, he busted his ass in that ring. He would come back to the corner. I dare you to look back at one of his fights, look at him in the corner every single round. Completely out of breath.
Spent.
Yeah, completely spent. Did everything he could in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy went out there, got dropped, would get up and fight on. You know, so I think that can be lacking in times, and I understand why guys won't do that. It's tough to be that guy.
Right.
But you know, I've always been that guy. You know, and I think that's just the way that I'm made up, and you know, it makes for exciting fights.
Now, are you an Al Heyman guy? You fought in that universe. What is your status in terms of promotion and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you free agent?
No, I've been with Star Boxing for a number of years now, and which has allowed me to fight for all the top organizations. I've been on Top Rank shows. I've been on PBC shows. You know, really everywhere you can think of. It's allowed me to kind of jump from place to place. So I don't know exactly where my home is at this point. I don't know how much that really plays these days. The landscape of the sport is changing drastically.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I think this time off has been a positive. I can kind of be at a vantage point where I can kind of see what's going on, see where everything's going to fall. You know, a lot of fighters haven't been busy now. Even undefeated guys who are fighting big fights. You know,
The guys last weekend,
they haven't fought in a year.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't fought in a year. I was asking about that, but I'm like, yeah, no one has. You know, there hasn't been as many shows. The whole second half of 2016, there were no fights in New York State.
Right.
You know, no big shows, no any shows. So boxing is definitely in some kind of strange transition right now, but boxing will live forever. So it'll come back. I'm not worried about that. Luckily, I've lived a life where I'm relatively young for my years, so my mileage isn't that high, and I think I have some time I can kind of sit back and when its time is right, come right back in and swoop in, win another world title.
147 or 140?
140.
140. I was looking at you like, yeah, you look like you still make it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Honestly, I could have always made it. I went up for there were big fights.
Yeah.
I think looking back, you know, I jumped up kind of quick, you know, in terms of like winning hitting the world stage, winning a world title. I was an undefeated world champion, 20 boxing fights.
Yeah.
I didn't have any amateur fights. My 20th boxing fight, not my pro fights, my 20th fight. You know, I won a world title. And then right from there, I went into fighting Pacquiao and Khan. It was a very fast-paced couple of years. Maybe from a business standpoint, not the smartest, but you know, fighters aren't always the smartest when it comes to business standpoint.
Dare to be great.
Yeah.
You know, you don't risk, you don't get the reward.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I'm an old school guy. I'm not one of those guys where you need to be undefeated and have to fight perfect and be whatever. I want to fight. I like to fight.
You'd already had that experience in your other combat sport, so
yeah, kickboxing was one of those things where, again, I've always been the kind of guy who wanted to go fast. You know, I wanted a world title fight in kickboxing in like my 6th pro fight. You know, they made me fight so many other guys, and I fought everybody across the world, you know, to get to my title fight. But I was a world champion in my 14, 15 fight there, and then fought a bunch more times, and then moved up and got another. I actually moved down and won another world title, and I was just, you know what, I'm done.
Let me jump back 1 second to the oxygen training. You've been doing it as well, the hyper.
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I've been. So when I first got here, you know, with Danny, you know, my job is to be here for him to make sure that he is prepared. So I took kind of like the first week to kind of just see what his workload and training volume was going to be like, so I can make the nutrition associate with that load. You know, I couldn't. It's not like a cookie cutter thing. I can't come and be like, all right, we're going to eat like this. You know, I have to see what you're doing. You know, I have to see what level of intensity he brings to it, and also what the schedule looks like, so I can make the timing of nutrient timing is one of the biggest things that I do. Making sure you're getting the right kinds of macronutrients at the right times, related to your training and your sleep schedules. So that was kind of like an early transition, and so that was all going on. They kept asking me, "Oh, you want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." But then, you know, training camp's a busy time.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm second fiddle at the moment, so I get my training in where I can, and you know, when it's time to go, it's time to go, and get my. But it's worked out that I've gotten a lot of great work. I just haven't got to play with the hyperbaric stuff or the hyper oxygen stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll be back. So.
Yeah. It's made some good connections out here, some nice people. So
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the ring again, man.
thank you. I look forward to being there.
Right on.